Yeah. Well, Shabbat Shalom again. Like I said, we're continuing on the seasons for a reason. I like that little kick there because it says there's a reason for the season. Well, there's seasons for a reason. And this is for our Passover, our Pesach series, part 3. I told you guys I'm getting a lot of interest into this. So we're going to continue with part 3. Finishing this up, I believe there will be a part 4. This will most likely not be like Police Academy and have 25 series on this one. Or was that what's the driving one? The Fast and Furious? Were they on like 20, 30 something now? Something like that? I don't know. I don't know. I saw the first one. That was enough for me. It was all right. But this one's going to have 4 parts, you know. So looking forward to the next one. But as we go through these, I want to review just a little bit what we went through last week with this. We talked about Kiddush. That was a word that people might not be too familiar with Kiddush being holy. And we looked a little bit at that. I'm not going to go too far into this because we did it last week. It's on the part 2 series. But if we looked in Bereshit, that's Genesis chapter 2, we found this as, thus the heavens and the earth were finished along with everything in them. On the 7th day, God was finished with his work which he had made. So he rested on the 7th day with all the work which he had made. God blessed the 7th day and he separated it as holy. That word is Kiddush right there. Holy is not good. Holy is not very good. It's not even very, very good. Holy is something different. And it's only mentioned this one time in Genesis. Genesis only has Kiddush one time mentioned, and that is in this verse. Something separated for God that has a special purpose, a godly purpose. That is holy. That's why the Seder starts out with a Kiddush cup. I got a cup here. Yep. I can't even see it because it's that. But yeah, the Kiddush cup. So it starts off with a Kiddush cup. Friday night Shabbat meals start off with a Kiddush cup. Everything starts off with a Kiddush cup. Why? Because we are separating that day and this time, some special occasion, for a godly purpose. That's why you give it the holy cup, the Kiddush cup, the separation cup. It separates from the regular to the holy. And it separates it as holy, and that's why Passover has a Kiddush cup to start off, because it separates the day. It's a way of honoring that day and separating it. If we go on to Leviticus chapter 23, these are the designated times of Adonai. The holy convocations that you are to proclaim at their designated times, special times. So, I'm going to take a little side tour on this one, because every time I bring this up or gets around churches, I've talked to pastors. We have pastors that want to talk, and we go to pastor meetings. I'm finding my way into those little groups. They might not like me. I don't care. It's all right. Hey, they can hate me if they want to hate. Haters going to hate. But they say, but we don't have to do that. That's the first thing. We don't have to do that. And number one, I want to start off by saying this. It ain't your day. This ain't your day. All right? It's not even a Jewish day. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it's God's day. This ain't your day, so you can't, say, well, we don't have to. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. That's fine. This is God's day. All right? It's God's day. All right? So it's his designated times. All right? So then I start to talk, and I find pastors that are part of Reformed church movement. They have replacement theology movement going on, the Calvinistic movement that is going on. And a lot of times they're the ones that first say, we don't have to do this. Like, we don't have to. That is it first before they even get started with things. We don't have to do this. And with that, I agree with them. I do agree with them. You don't have to do this. All right? So you don't. I especially agree with the Calvinistic views on this, because I meet a lot of Calvinistic people. And they say, we don't have to do this. And I said, no, it's especially great that you don't, because you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. That's the beauty of free will. I don't know. Checkmate, gotcha. I don't know. That's it. It's free will. You do what you want to do, you know? So if you can choose to be disobedient, or you can choose to be obedient, you know? And then they say, well, you're not going to go to hell because you didn't do Passover. Why you always got to bring it to that level? Why you go to the hell? Who's talking about hell? Nobody said, oh, if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. It's like, I'm just saying we're doing Passover. If I don't do it, am I going to go to hell? Look, let me tell you this. This is something, I'm gonna scroll on this one real quick. I wrote this one down because this is exactly the mentality that I hear from people. They say, we won't go to hell because we're not going to do Passover. We're not going to go to hell because of this and this. A lot of the mentality that's going on with the pastors teaching this gospel, they call it, is what is the bare minimum I need to do to get to heaven? That's it. Sign me up for the bare minimum. What is the bare minimum that I need to do so that way I'll be right with God? Sign me up for that. Anything more than that, I don't know. That's a sacrifice, isn't it, though? I don't know. So, I know. I know. So, God blessed you with sharing His day with you, and you're only going to do a disservice to you and to your children. If you don't do it, it's only not going to benefit you. It's not going to benefit God. God's not like, oh, man, I had a lot of people doing Passover Day. It was good for me. No, you missed the blessing out. That's what it is. You got to understand where this is coming from. All right. So many think that this day is all about the Exodus story. And many think that the story is all about the Jews. But see, they don't realize that God chose the Jewish people to deliver His message of redemption through them. And if a church says that it has nothing to do with them, this Exodus story, this Passover has nothing to do with them, well, then that church does not have redemption on their radar. Point blank. And I say that boldly because the New Testament, there's people that say that they're a New Testament church, New Testament only church, and that's what they say, New Testament only church. Well, they cannot define redemption without the Tanakh, without using what they call the Old Testament. You cannot define it without using the Tanakh because the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, references the Tanakh to describe redemption. It's an example set. So every event that happened in the Torah is a foreshadow of what is to come. It's His plan. This is why we must study and be prepared, or else, in the end, you're just going to stand there looking stupid. I don't know. I was wanting to word that better. I could not. Because God's going to say, I told you. And I told you what I was going to do. I told you. Not only that, but I even explained it. The Exodus story has everything to do with today. And many people say that the Torah is a history book. It is actually a prophecy book. It's a book of prophecy, all right? People get wrapped up in big churchy words when I say prophecy. Prophecy isn't this like ooga booga, like, hey, I'm prophesying. That's not what this is, okay? I'm going to break this down because a lot of people want to know what this is about. God is just telling you what He is going to do before He's going to do it. When I say prophecy, that's what it is. God says, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do before I'm going to do it. All right? We'll call that prophecy. That's what that is, all right? He is showing you ahead of time, and that is what that means. Just basically, I'm going to tell you before I do it, just giving you a heads up, okay? So if you read this, then when things go down, you go, oh, I see where you're coming at with this. It didn't come from left field. That's all this is. That's all this is. But people get really tied up in stuff, and I had to kind of go off that tangent to just kind of clarify some things. But here we go. In Exodus chapter 1, Joseph died and did all of his brothers and all that generation. The descendants of Israel were fruitful, increased abundantly, multiplied and grew, very powerful, and the land became filled with them. It even goes on to say, now there rose a new king over Egypt, and he knew nothing about Joseph and said to his people, look, the descendants of Israel have become a people too numerous and powerful for us. Come, let us use wisdom in dealing with them. That was wisdom. That was doing right in their own eyes. That was their wisdom, not God's wisdom. But otherwise, they will continue to multiply, and in the event of war, they might ally themselves with our enemies, fight against us, and leave the land altogether. It goes on to say, So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built Pharaoh storage cities of Pitmon and Ramses. But the more the Egyptians oppressed them, the more they multiplied and expanded until the Egyptians came to dread the people of Israel and worked them relentlessly, making their lives bitter with hard labor, digging clay, making bricks, all kind of field work, and in all that toil they were shown no mercy. First thing first, they were enslaved. This is where it starts. They were enslaved. They were in a situation that they could not get themselves out of. Over the years, they were born into slavery. This was their way of life, and this is all that they knew. This is life for them, and they are living it. I'm going to repeat that all real quick. They were enslaved. They were in a situation they couldn't get themselves out of. And over the years, they were born into slavery. This was their way of life. This was all they knew. This was life for them, and they are living it. This is the beginning of the story. We go through this. I want to show you this in Romans. People get really scared about this verse. People will misunderstand it. It's not crazy. Churches will split on this stuff. Families get upset and stuff when they talk and they get into Romans because they say it's just so difficult. It's actually quite simple. For sin shall not be master over you, for you are not under the law, but under grace. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? May it never be. I even put King Jimmy up here too. It says, for sin shall not have dominion over you, for ye are not under the law, but under grace. What then? Shall we sin because we are not under the law, but under grace? God forbid. All right. So when we look at this, you're never a slave to the law. Get that in your head. We're never a slave to the law. So when you think of it in that way, because they say, well, the law has been done away with. It's like, hold up, time out, buddy. You were never a slave to the law. That's part of free will. You could have done whatever you wanted to do. And when they say the law, that's God's instructions. Because of what? Free will. You were never a slave to that. You were a slave. So you, and some still are, I'll put it that way, some still are a slave to sin. All right? That's the disobedience to God's law or his instructions, we put it. The law or the instructions are good. And I say, don't just take my word for it. Here it is. So then the Torah is holy and the commandments is holy and righteous and good. King Jimmy, he thinks the same thing. Wherefore art thou the law is holy and the commandments are holy, just, and good. That is King James saying it. So I tell you once, tell you twice, but wait, there's more. I even put a Torah scroll on too. Check that one out. Old Billy Mays with the Torah scroll. I had to do a little photoshopping. Yeah, you like that. So we go to the Psalm. It says, happy is the one who has not walked in the advice of the wicked, nor stood in the way of sinners, nor sat where the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the Torah of Adonai, and his Torah he meditates day and night. We'll even see this in the King Jimmy version. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of the sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of scoffers. I'm terrible even with just regular English, so we go on this. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Dotheth he doth. So I'm just putting these extreme versions up here because that way you can see that it's not any, it says the same thing, all right? And we go through this in Romans. It says, what then? Shall we sin because they were not under the law but under grace? But it says, you were a slave of sin, wholeheartedly, and it says you wholeheartedly obeyed the form of teachings under which you were placed. And then after you were set free from what? Sin, not the law. You were set free from the sin. Last time I checked, when the cross happened, that was sin on a cross. It wasn't the law. It was a sin that was nailed to the cross. And it says you became enslaved to righteousness. That means you actually became part of righteousness. Righteousness was over you. I would love to be enslaved to righteousness, you know? So you were a slave to sin, not the law. And they say, well, the law has been done away with. And your enslavement, I just want to reiterate on that, is to sin. That's what you were enslaved to. And I always want to say to people, like, it's called a Bible. Maybe you should read it. Or not. Just be ignorant your whole life. I don't care. Do what you want to do, right? That's free will. But if you just read the Bible, and that's all it is. That's all it is. So let's look at this Exodus again. Moreover, the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, one of them who was called Sephara and the other was Puah. When you attend the Hebrew women and see them giving birth, he said, if it's a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. However, the midwives were God-fearing women, so they didn't do as the king of Egypt ordered them, but they let the boys live. The king of Egypt summoned the midwives and demanded of them, why have you done this and let the boys live? The midwives answered Pharaoh, it's because the Hebrew women aren't like the Egyptian women. They go into labor and give birth before the midwives arrive. Therefore, God prospered the midwives, and the people continued to multiply and grow very powerful. Indeed, because the midwives feared God, he made them founders of families. That is really good. The Pharaoh gave this order to all his people. Every boy that is born, throw him in the river, but let all the girls live. Here's a good quote here. If you want to control society, control the men. There's an unknown. If you want to control society, control the men. Men today are not men. There are a lot of 50-year-old boys. Weak, feminized, jailed. Lots of strong, independent women who don't need no man, but they're trying to be a father. The world knows how to get people away from God and to make them weak. The world builds a society that destroys the family at its core. It's sad. Kind of feel like I need to say this sometimes, but some women know this also, that if you want to control the house, you control the husband. And it's quite sad. That's why I really push for the women to lift their husbands up, push them to do things. Get off that couch. Quit playing your video games. Go out and do something. Mow the grass. But I'll show these next pictures with you real quick. This is the Nile crocodile. The Nile River is home to the Nile crocodile. Nile crocodiles are the largest crocodile in Africa and the second largest in the world. Here's another cool one. This one's related to the piranhas. This is an African tigerfish. There are other aquatic creatures with carnivorous reputation. Their powerful jaws and protruding sharp teeth used to kill and consume other fish, making them one of the most vicious predators in the Nile, and they're not picky eaters. They'll eat anything that's kind of moving in the river. And I'm bringing that to this picture here to bring it all together. This was a DreamWorks film, Prince of Egypt. This was the wall scene portrayed, and it's a sad story. The river became a bloody mess. I always say I could talk about abortion here, but people say, but that's different. And I say, is it different? This is actually a picture of a society that does not hold the value of a child. I didn't even stutter on that one. But we're going to go on. In Psalms it says, children too are a gift from Adonai. The fruit of the womb is a reward. The children born when one is young are like arrows to the hand of a warrior. How blessed is the man who has filled his quiver with them. He will not have to be embarrassed when contending with foes at the city gate. That was King Shlomo that said that, King Solomon. And then in Exodus 1, chapter 1, verse 21, indeed, because the midwives feared God, he made them founders of families. Baruch Hashem for God-fearing women, that's for sure. Then in Exodus says that this is the verse that I tell you, when Passover comes up, when you have a Seder meal, this is the verse that's always thrown out, every Seder, no matter where you go to. Therefore, say to Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, say, I am Adonai, I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. I will deliver you from their bondage, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. I will take you to myself as a people, and I will be your God. You will know that I am Adonai, your God, who brought you out of under the burdens of the Egyptians. These are the four promises, and that's when we have the four cups. Right here it says, Adonai said to Moses, go to Pharaoh, for I have made him and his servants hard-hearted, so that I can demonstrate the signs of mine amongst them, so that you can tell your son and grandson about what I did to Egypt, and about my signs that I demonstrate among them. and so that you will all know that I am Adonai. So ask, how will they know that he's God? How will they know that he's Adonai? Signs and wonders. That's how they'll know, because he's going to prove it to them. He's going to show it to them. And then they'll tell their sons, and they'll tell their grandsons, and the grandsons will tell their sons, and so on and so on and so on, because it'll be passed down. There's a reputation of God showed himself that day with signs and wonders. I will lay my hand on Egypt and bring my armies. Savayot. I will bring my armies, my people, the sons of Israel, out of the land of Egypt with great acts of judgment. Now, what were these signs and wonders that he did? And we read these in our Haggadahs. We have a Seder. A Seder is just the organized way that we do the Seder meal. It's just, we went through that with the last lesson. It's just talking about this is an order of service. The Haggadah just means telling the story. And when we tell the story, we go through all of the aspects of the story. This goes through all the different signs and wonders that God did. So first, it starts off, Moses and Aaron did exactly what Adonai had ordered. He raised the staff in the sight of Pharaoh and his servants, struck the water in the river, and all the water in the river was turned into blood. The fish in the river died, and the river stank so bad that the Egyptians couldn't drink its water. There was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. When we do this at the Seder, it's custom to take your little pinky and you dip it in your cup and you dot your plate with it. It's just a way to do it, and you just repeat back. So it makes it interactive with the children, to learn the different plagues that happen. So many people will say, all the water turned to blood, but many people will say that this was an attack on the false god of the river. And it's really taught that way, and it is. I mean, they worship the river. It's true. But I see the irony in it, though. There's a little bit more in the story. There's a little bit more irony in the story. I think for the first thing that he would do was he was to remind them of something. I think he was going to remind them of a bloody mess that had happened. A bloody mess of killing his children. God told Pharaoh, he's like, hey, little homie, you remember this? Hey, you remember that? I remember that day. You might have forgot that day. I ain't forgot that day. Your river is bloody. I wonder why. I wonder why that river is full of blood. The piper will be paid, and today's payday. Number 2, Adonai said to Moses, say to Aaron, reach out your hand over your staff, over the rivers, canals, the ponds, and cause all the frogs to come up from the land of Egypt. Aaron put out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. Here's one right here. This is Hakwet right here. This is the Egyptian goddess of fertility and childbirth. Hakwet was often depicted as a frog or a woman with a frog's head. The Egyptians believed that Hakwet could help them have children and protect them during pregnancy and labor. This is one of the false gods that they were talking about. Just interesting things. So you want frogs? Yeah, we'll give you some frogs. Adonai said to Moshe, say to Aaron, reach out with your staff and strike the dust on the ground. It will become lice, some say gnats, throughout all the land of Egypt. Number 4, Adonai did it. Terrible swarms of insects went out in Pharaoh's palace and to all the servants' house. The insects ruined the entire land of Egypt. Some say wild animals, some say it could be flies. Depends on how the translation puts out. Either way, I don't want any of them. None of them. I'm good. He could throw roaches up there. I'd be like, man, get out of here. Quit it. Spiders. Spiders are insects. I'm just saying. I don't know what it was. Something came after them. I'll take option C, none of the above. And then it goes on to the 5th one. The hand of Adonai is on your livestock, the fields of the horses, the donkeys, the camels, the cattle, the flocks. All will make them suffer in devastating illness. The following day Adonai did it. All the livestock of Egypt died, but not one of the animals belonged to the people of Israel died. Moving on to the 6th one. And I said to Moses and Aaron, take handfuls of ashes from the kindling, and let Moses throw them in the air before Aaron's eyes. They will turn into fine dust over all the land of Egypt and become infective sores on men and animals throughout Egypt. So they took ashes from the kindling, stood in front of Pharaoh, and threw them in the air, and they became infective sores with men and animals. They had boils and sores, and their skin was just nasty. And the 7th one. Moses reached out with his staff over the sky, and Adonai set thunder and hail and fire ran down on the earth. Adonai caused the hail on the land of Egypt. It hailed and fire flashed up when the hail hit. It was hailing fire. It was terrible, worse than any hailstorm in all of Egypt since it became a nation. Number 8 one. Adonai said to Moshe, reach out your hand over the land of Egypt so the locusts will invade the land and eat every plant that the hail had left. We're going on to the 9th one. Adonai said to Moshe, reach out your hand toward the sky and there will be a darkness over the land of Egypt. Darkness so thick that it can be felt. Moses said, and this is the 10th one, here's what Adonai said. About midnight I will go out into Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt will die. From the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne, the firstborn of the slave girl, and the handmaid, and all the firstborn of the livestock. We'll kill the firstborn, taking them. Now we go through that. We explain these. During a Seder meal, remember a Seder in the Haggadah, we're just explaining the story to remember to pass it on. This is all it's about. It's about a way to repeat this story and to make sure it never goes away. There's a part in there called Yitzhak that comes up. It's the Yahatz. It's the breaking of the matzah. And I'm gonna share this a little bit with you guys real quick. So we got, we'll just do it like this. So it's breaking of the matzah, and I'll try to explain it. We'll go to the next one right here for it. So the breaking of the middle matzah, and there's songs, breaking the middle matzah. There's songs about it. One of the 3 matzahs, the middle one is to be broken. So on a Seder table, there'll probably be 3. They're usually on a plate. You have holders for them, but you take the 3, and you take the middle one. Why 3? You take the middle one. And then you break it. So you raise it up. We brought that vacuum with us today, didn't we? All right, I'll do it right here so that way we don't have to do all mess. I'm going to do like this. There we go. Oh, look, little crumbs. All right, so you break it, all right? So the smaller half will remain in sight between the remaining 2 matzot. So you put it here. The middle one will still be in sight. You can see the middle one, the smaller one, all right? But the larger half will be wrapped up and hidden and will be found later with the meal. It's called the afikomen, which means dessert, something that comes later. The children look for it after the meal. All right, so we take it, we put it in a little cloth, we wrap it up, and we hide it. I'm going to hide it right over here. Nobody saw that. You don't know where it's at. Sleight of hand. All right, so you hide it, and that's what we do. Why is the significance of hiding the larger piece of the broken matzah for later? Well, let's look at that a little bit. So the matzah represents redemption, since it commemorates the Jews' exodus from Egypt when they ate matzah. Though they were redeemed from Egypt, they're still in exile, anticipating the ultimate redemption through the Mashiach. That's the Messiah. Putting the larger piece away for later indicates our belief that the Messiah will come and redeem us, and we will then witness even greater miracles than that at the time of the redemption of Egypt. Wow, Scott, that's very messianic for you to say. No, it's rabbinical. It's rabbinical. So we have a great Talmudist, Rabbi Shabbat HaKohen. Now he's called the Shach, which is his name. It's basically an acronym of his name. He puts it this way: the night of Passover is divided into 2 parts. The first half is for the miracles which led to Israel's redemption from Egypt. The second half is for the future redemption, and we hide the afikomen for the future redemption. This was a 17th century Talmudist, the Talmud. And go on here. This is Rabbi Jacob ben Moshe. They call him Mulan. It's the Mulan, is what it's called, the Maharel. And it's said that the afikomen must be a larger piece of matzah. The afikomen, the one we hid, it must be a larger one. Why? Well, he taught that after the final redemption, the exodus from Egypt will become secondary, while the final redemption will become essential. The afikomen is larger for this reason. The smaller piece of matzah remaining on the Seder plate is an allusion to the exodus. It is smaller since when the time of the final redemption, the exodus will be of less importance as well. That was he was born in 1365, in Holy Roman Empire. That empire is not even around anymore. It's old school. And then if you want to go to Chabad and just look things up for yourself, Chabad's website, 14 Afikoman facts every Jew should know. Number 14 on the list, it carries a deeper meaning. The hidden aspect of the Afikoman holds a profound significance. The Afikoman represents our liberation from the Egyptian exile. That redemption, however, was not complete, as we yet to see the final redemption with the coming of the Mashiach, the Messiah. Setting aside the larger half for the matzah reminds us that the perfect and genuine redemption is still hidden and yet to come. Tell me this has nothing to do with you guys. Come on. So let's look. There's some miracles that Yeshua performed. Water to blood versus changing water to wine. The very first miracle. He says, oh man, this is the first one. Hold on, my time ain't come. Hold on. The first one. Water to wine. The blood is death. Wine is life. And the blood, God said, remember the bloody mess? And he says, yeah, I remember that bloody mess. And when the wine, he says, he remembered this is the way it was supposed to be. It was holy matrimony. It was a wedding, a family, a new beginning, restoration. And then the fish lady, I just put this on there, the fish lady Hakwet, the fertility thing. I don't know how to describe it. That's all I can say. And he had the virgin birth. He stops a woman from bleeding issues in Matthew chapter 9. No food to insects and livestock. They had a lot of problems with that. All that. Feeding of 5,000 in Matthew 14. Jesus had 99 problems, but food ain't one. I put that on there. Have fun with it. There was infectious sores on the body. Healed the leper. 10 guys with leprosy was healed. We're talking body sores here. Hailstorm and firestorm versus the power over the storm of the sea. Matthew chapter 8. It goes on to say, darkness for 3 days. But Yeshua said, I'm the light of the world. But for 3 days I'll be buried and it'll be dark. Death to the firstborn. But there was death, but a resurrection of the firstborn. Amen. Matthew 28, Luke 24. And this is a sneak peek into next week's lesson. Most like, how are we going to get out of here? We'll split the water so we can walk through it on dry land. But Yeshua's like, nah, man, I don't even need that. I just walk on it. Just walk on the water. Matthew 14. Healed the official son, John chapter 4. Healed a man possessed, Mark 1. 2 blind men can see, Matthew 9. Healing a man with crippled hand, Matthew 12. Jairus' daughter back to life, Matthew chapter 9. Lazarus back to life, John chapter 11. Deaf man healed, Mark 7. Blind man healed, Mark 8. Healed a young boy in Matthew 17. I just put it this way, put old dude's ear back on after Kepha chopped it off, Luke 22. Yeshua walked around for 40 days after he rose from the dead, Acts 1. A partridge in a pear tree, I don't know. We just keep going with it. And then this verse. This is the one, the Talmudid, this is the disciple who testifying about these things, who had recorded them. And we know that his testimony is true. But there are so many other things Yeshua did that even if you were all to record it, I don't think there in the whole world could contain the books that would even have been to be written. So there's so much stuff. Yeshua's like, I see you following me. I see you seeing this. I see you writing this down. Don't. This one ain't for the books. I got a lot of stuff. I'll tell you when to write something down. This one's not for the books. This one's for the books. So many miracles. The first half is for the miracles which led to Israel's redemption from Egypt. The second half is for the future redemption. We hide the Afikoman for the future redemption. He taught that after the final redemption, the exodus from Egypt will become secondary, while the final redemption will become essential. The Afikoman is larger for the reason the smaller piece of the matzah remaining on the Seder plate, an allusion to the Exodus. The smaller, since when it is in time of the final redemption, the Exodus will become less important as well. In the book of Matthew says, while they were all eating, Yeshua took a piece of matzah, he made the baruch, he broke it, he gave it to the Talmudim, his disciples, and he said, take, eat, this is my body. This was after the meal. That's what Afikoman's called. The dessert later. He holds it up and he says, this is my body. But Yeshua, that represents the Messiah. This is my body. They understood. They had context. And then the cup of redemption. That's the third cup. It's the cup after the meal. It's the third or the fourth cup. This is the redemption after the meal. This is when Adonai said, I will redeem you. That's the cup of redemption. This shows Adonai's love with an outstretched arm and with great judgments to redeem us. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm. It's a cup of redemption. Also, he took a cup of wine, made the Baruch, and gave it to them, saying, all of you drink from it, for this is my blood, which ratifies the new covenant, my blood shed on behalf of many, so that they may have their sins forgiven. The cup of redemption is after the meal. And he said, this is my blood. The bloody mess on the door. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. That little lamb had a bloody mess on that door. I remember that. And in Romans we read, you were slaves of sin. You wholeheartedly obeyed the form of teaching under which you were placed. And after you were set free from sin, you became enslaved to righteousness. Slave to sin, not the law, not the instructions. He set us free from slavery to ourselves, to our sin. Born slave to sin. This is what you know. This is your life. God came with signs and wonders. He gave you a lamb that you had to kill. And you trust that would prevent the wrath of God, so it would pass over you during your judgment. Because you trusted in that blood that covered you like he promised. You were set free from Egypt, from sin. You go through the desert of sanctification. He gives you instructions, tests, trials, not to hurt you, but to strengthen you. Baruch Hashem, praise God. And that's where we're going to start out next week. Come up praising God. Amen. Let's go ahead, we'll stand and close in prayer and sing some songs. God, I just come before you today. When it gets to the time frame of Passover, I think to myself that you chose people and you put this form to show us an example of what to do and show us examples of yourself. And I think to myself, when I sit at a Passover Seder meal, I'm not even worthy to sit at the table. I'll be honest, that's the way I feel. I go, who am I to sit at this table? Who am I to break bread and drink the juice and know that this represents for me today? This represents for my children. This represents for my grandchildren. They're not even born. This represents for my friends and my family. But we're not worthy to sit at your table. So I don't want to sit at the table with pride or boasting or say that we do this and somebody else doesn't. But God, I just want to say thank you for saving me a seat. That's all I got to say. I got nothing beautiful, eloquent to say or anything. Just all I can say is thank you. And when we go through this is all I think is just thank you. This is all I can say. I got nothing else. Just thank you. It's in Yeshua's name. Amen. We'll go ahead and close out with the V'nei Hamar. And it is said, the Lord shall be king over all the world, and on that day the Lord will be one, and his name, one. V'nei Mar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu Yeh Adonai Echad. Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo Echad. May Adonai bless you and keep you. May Adonai make his face shine on you and show you his favor. May Adonai look upon you and give you peace. Yevarecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. Ya Adonai pano v'lecha ve'hunecha. Yisa Adonai pano v'lecha ve'asim leho shalom. Shalom, guys.